Hi everyone, this is Masood from bygonechronicles.com and welcome to my channel. Today I have got a guest with me, my very good friend Harsha from Mysore. I have invited him here for a special reason. I would be discussing about the real Tipu Sultan with him. What I mean by real Tipu Sultan, I will expound about it uh, in a moment. But let's first welcome Harsha. Hi Harsha, how are you? Very warm welcome to you.
Hi, Masood. Hi. I'm doing good. I'm extremely very happy to see you here, and it's been so long a time since you came here, and it's very nice to see you in this portal.
Thank you, Harsha.
Nice
Thank you so much for
to
that.
Rashford.
Great
Yeah.
to see you as well. Great to see you as well.
That's true.
Uh,
That's true.
uh,
Thanks.
Thank you, Harsha. And just before we start discussing about this topic, let me give you a short introduction about Harsha and why I have invited him to talk on this topic. And as I said, let me also explain a bit about this topic. When I say we would be talking about the real Tipu Sultan, I mean we would be looking at various images, photographs, paintings of Tipu Sultan circulating in the web, social media, magazines, cover photos of various books. Some of the books are to do with his own biography, some on Mysore, and so on. We'd also even be looking at portraits of Tipu in palaces, which, if you have observed, they all look very different. So, how can a person look so different is a question that many of you would have in mind. And this question also always cropped up in my mind. And Harsha here today would help us with this answer. Why Tipu looks so different and why are there so many images of Tipu? And before we formally jump in, a little short introduction about Harsha as well. Uh, Harsha is, his full name is Dr. Harshvardhana Yadumurthy. I mean, he has completed his doctorate, PhD in biochemistry from IISc Bangalore, one of the premier institutions in India. He even teaches biochemistry to students doing their post-graduation in biochemistry at the Central College, which, if you're familiar with Bangalore, will know is located very close to Vidhana Sauda and is one of the oldest colleges in Bangalore, which was
Yes,
originally
yes.
started by the British, I think in the mid or late 1800s. Uh,
I
uh,
think
uh,
so. Yes. And even BL Rice was there.
that's
BL
great.
Epigraphy of Carnatica. And if you
BL
just walk a few BL Rice, Benjamin Louis Rice, and if you walk a few hundred meters from the college, I mean, in the Avenue Road, I mean, you have the church built
his
by
church,
B.L.
Rice
Rice's father.
Memorial.
Yes. Rice Memorial. Yeah. So it's a very, very historical place as well. So in that sense, very old place in Bangalore. Yeah.
Great. I mean, that's to do with his profession and academic qualifications. However, Harsha, as I said, is from Mysore, and he has also got a very deep interest in history, like many Mysoreans do. He's also interested in paintings. I mean, he's an artist. So, Harsha, last time I had been to Mysore a couple of months back, had very kindly invited me along with my kids and my family to his house. And his mom had prepared some very delicious lunch. And there in his house, I saw many paintings. I mean, I can still see one in the background. I believe that painting is of Badru Zama.
Yeah.
And
That's Badru Zaman Khan. So again. I mean, I take an inspiration from the original drawing by Thomas Hickey, which he painted. I mean, these drawings are there at Seringapatam, Daria Daulat Bagh. So that's in the black and white version. I just added a bit of color to it. That's it.
Great. So, I mean, that shows, Harsha's artistic talent. And apart from that, I mean, there were so many paintings in your house, Harsha. I mean, from, the place where Tipu died to, so many other officials in Tipu's court, the painting of our Mamadi Krishna Raja Vadiyar. I
Yeah.
mean, that was also an amazing painting. I mean, there were pencil sketches, oil paintings, so on. And and just for our audience, the reason why I have invited Harsha here is that a couple of days back, I believe towards the end of November, a research paper done by Harsha on 2 paintings of Tipu Sultan was published by Scroll. I will be giving the link of that particular article in the description of this video, which you can later check. So getting back to Harsha, I mean, you're a doctor. I mean, you have done your PhD in biochemistry. You actually teach biochemistry to postgraduate students. But I know you're interested in natural history. You said that you're interested in natural history, which is to do with evolution of organism. Understandably, that is your field. But why are you giving competition to historians, Harsha? I mean, why are you after their bread and butter?
No, not at all, not at all. This basically there was an no. As a matter of fact, there was an innate interest in history, because the very first book which I still remember, which my father got me when I was around 6 or 7 years of age, was the Hamlin series, which contained one book on history of the world, which was by Plantagenet Somerset Fry, and it had wonderful paintings. So you can imagine, a 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid looking at those painted pages, and the pages of Arthur Wellesley and Pandit Nehru were all there in that book. So in some ways, I mean, that was my first book. Then later on, my father himself was a teacher, and he was a professor of management. But nonetheless, he still nursed an interest in history. We used to go to Srirangapatna very often, and we used to go near the old demolished Lal Bagh Palace, and my dad used to tell me about that this was a palace here, and so on and so forth. So this innate interest in history was always there. So once I finished PhD, and even during PhD also, whenever I used to visit Mysore, I used to visit some places at Srirangapatna, be it the site where the British actually first made the attack, the breach, and all those things. So those things were basically known. But what basically, provided me the momentum was my first visit to Daria Daulat Bagh, where I actually saw the beautiful sketches by Thomas Hickey of the children of Tipu Sultan and the officers of Tipu Sultan. See, you should see there is not one single smiling face in that photograph. You can actually see the imagination, and you can actually see the condition. Just now they have lost the battle, just now they have lost their dad, and now they're looking at their gloomy future. They're about to be transferred to Vellore, and some of the paintings are from Vellore. So you can actually see very sad, very poignant faces. Those actually faces are talking back to you. So that was the time when I started to give more interest on Thomas Hickey, not just the Tipu Sultan himself. My first love was basically the paintings by Thomas Hickey and Thomas Hickey himself. So I did some basic research. I contacted some people like Paul Caffrey from Ireland, and tried to figure out where his grave is and all those things. So that was the time when I started to do much of research about Tipu Sultan, Muhammad Krishnaraj Wadiyar, then Abhay Dubba, and several other characters which actually form an, of course, Purnaya, Wilkes, and others. So they form, complete stellar constellation of characters in the whole of that transition history, where we actually can see from 1799 to the restoration of the Wadiyar. So I mean, that transition period was very much interested to me from the earlier part. But later on, I mean, when I delve into that, there is one personality which you can never miss, and who was always in the backdrop, was Tipu Sultan. So you can never ignore his character there. So yeah. So of course. So now when I started to study from 1799 to 1810, that chaotic period where the restoration was done. So before that, Tipu Sultan ruled. Then after that, it was under Purnaya's regency that Muhammadi took the administration. Later on, Muhammadi took the administration by himself. Later on, when Purnaya got retired. So before this transition phase, we have Tipu Sultan phase and Muhammadi Krishnaraj phase. So this transition phase was my subject of interest. But later on, yeah, when I started to visit the fort and read the books and the sites, my God, I mean, you can at least, I mean, get some 10 to 15 more PhDs from Tipu's chapters alone. Right. So there's so much to be learned, and so much to be known, and so much to be unearthed. So this was just I just told you why it was so fascinating for me to study the Mysore history. And of course, Srirangapatna is just a stone's throw away from Mysore. So anyway, anytime I wanted to go, I can go and come back. So that was it.
Wonderful, Harsha. I mean, as I said, if you are from Mysore, history is in your blood. So that just shows your deep fascination for history. And Harsha, I mean, before we get into the images, I mean,
Mhm.
why do you think it is important for us to discuss these different paintings, depictions of Tipu Sultan? I mean, what is the point? I mean, what is the significance of it?
So not necessarily Tipu Sultan, be it any historical personality. The picture, just to see the picture of the person is one important facet of it to see his culture and the things like that. So paintings and photographs and other imagery are such powerful tools which actually gives us a glimpse into the history. Whenever you see a portrait, you can actually not just see the person himself, but you can actually see the surroundings, the buildings. I mean, the dress that he wears, the culture, and then
Right.
so many things, not just the face itself. So painting is one very important portal in which gives us much more than a glimpse into the history. And now at this scenario where people are uh, you relying more about the social media than the good old libraries. So the false news, the wrongly attributed paintings, and all these things. I mean, it gives you it doesn't do justice to the history at all, or even the personality himself, right? The historical personage. So to learn more about certain historical person, its visual depiction uh, is one of the necessity, and it's good as well to learn more. But if it's wrongly attributed, then it's almost like there is something falsification of certain facts and history, so which is not good to build a firm edifice of historiography. So in that sense, there is a dire necessity to correct these mistakes to make the things right. And nowadays, since people are using WhatsApp and other social media, and
Yes.
where the wrong news is spread like wildfire, so that is something
Yes.
that we need to address as well. So that does wrong not only to the history but also to the person himself. So that's one thing. And academically, of course, you need to point out errors. So that's more of an academic interest as well.
No, wonderful, Harsha. Wonderful. I mean, very well put across. I mean, I do agree with you, totally. And especially as you said, the times that we live in today, misinformation is spread like wildfire, as you said. And those who know the facts, I mean, they need to make time and effort to correct them. And someone has to set the record straight. And with that, Harsha, let's straight
Mhm.
move to the topic and look at some of the images circulating around. Let me
Yeah,
just
sure, sure, sure.
share my
Yes,
screen with
Masood.
you. We'll
Yes,
be
yes,
looking
Masood. Yes.
perfect. The first image, I know you must have seen this. I mean, you must have, I'm pretty sure, got a WhatsApp. Let me just, how do I share my screen? Sorry, just a minute.
Yeah, yeah, no issues.
Okay, let me open this image, Harsha.
Yes, yes, Masood.
So I'm pretty sure, Harsha, you must have seen this image on Facebook, WhatsApp. I mean, it's even captioned telling that this is the real photo of Mysore tiger. It
Mhm.
also has got a date, 1789, found in a museum in London, and says that
Mhm.
legends are not created, they are born.
Masood,
I mean,
just one thing. Can you make it much? Can you make it a little bigger because it's in
yes.
thumbnail format.
Is it better now?
It looks like a thumbnail. I don't know why it's not written for the whole screen. Okay, anyways, I'll just use my mobile phone to. Okay, yeah, I see this image. As
Yes.
yeah, yeah, I
It's
have
it,
seen
it
this
looks
image. I
like
mean,
the image of an African gentleman. It says that
that's
he's
true.
the real Tipu.
Yeah. So one thing before we actually go directly into this particular picture, this is a photograph. So this is not a painting, not a engraving, or not a little. I mean, not an engraving basically, and not a painting as well. So in that sense, this is a photography. So what we have learned is that photography didn't come into existence much until the 1820s or probably early 1830s. So I think we had the daguerreotypes, and there was one French gentleman who pioneered the photography. So in that sense, it was around 1930s or late 1920s. Sorry, 1820s. Sorry. It was 1820s and 1830s that
1820s, right?
we have the first photograph. And the lifetime of Tipu Sultan was 1751 to 1799. So so in that sense, we could never have a photograph of Tipu Sultan. So any claims or any justifications which say that, yeah, this is a photograph of Tipu Sultan, bona fide photograph of Tipu Sultan, which was found in London Museum or wherever it may be, it's totally false. And you can actually, you can actually, uh, you can reject it straight away. So you can actually use the Ichen's scalpel. I mean, Ichen's argument saying that, I mean, something which doesn't have any proof, you can actually reject it without a proof also. So in that sense, but yeah, this image, I mean, this is a photograph, and you can actually see this person is from an African descent.
That's right.
So I think yeah. So yeah, first question is that definitely this is not Tipu Sultan. The second question, which usually people will ask, is that, okay, if it's not Tipu Sultan, then who this is? So of course, many people have debunked this image also. So I think this is a person of an African descent, most likely Rum Liza, who was a slave trader from Zanzibar, I guess, from Middle East. So that's what I can tell from this image. But more, but keeping keeping in line with our topic, this definitely is not Tipu Sultan of Mysore.
No, wonderful, Harsha. As you said, I mean, the image also says that it is a photo, of a Mysore tiger, and that was a very convincing answer, Harsha. I mean, I hope this will clear a lot of air about this African gentleman being Tipu, and as you said, photography wasn't invented until the 1820s or 1830s, and Tipu, he was, his lifespan ended in 1799. So this definitely isn't Tipu Sultan. And also, there isn't, as far as I'm aware, a museum in London known as the London Museum. There is a museum which is known as the British Museum. So, so this caption is fake, and we can just dismiss this. And
yeah, photo is fake and the caption is fake as well.
Perfect. Brilliant, Harsha. And let me go to the other image. I mean, your answer, I believe, has already helped us. This is another photo, which is circulating, telling that, he's the Tipu Sultan. So, again, it appears an African gentleman, and it also says, it's captioned as real photo of Tipu Sultan, the second image.
Yeah, so yeah, again, you are correct in saying that this is a gentleman of African descent. Of course, it's a photography. So Tipu Sultan couldn't have been photographed by anyone. So definitely it's not Tipu Sultan. So if it's not Tipu Sultan, who that is? Again, some people have debunked this. And upon checking on Google, so we found that this gentleman is Hamad bin Mohammed, also known as Tipu Tib, and he was from Zanzibar. So that's what we can tell as of now. So, and definitely not Tipu Sultan. So not Tipu Sultan of Mysore.
Perfect, so perfect, Harsha. You very kindly shared me this, image just before, we started the session. It does say, it looks like there's a book written on him as well. It very clearly says, ivory, slavery, and discovery in the scramble for Africa. So Tipu Tip. So now,
Tipu Tip.
Wonderful, Harsha. And now, as you said very clearly, Harsha, I mean, the answer is very convincing. Photography wasn't there. So both these images can't be of Tipu. But however, now let's look at some of the paintings of Tipu Sultan, Harsha. And it gets serious here because these paintings are used by, prominent and premier institutions like one is taken from the Columbia.edu website, which is actually the website of the Columbia University in New York. And also this image, which I'm going to show you, maybe I can share my screen. It's also taken from the royalacademy.org.uk. If you look, let me just click here. It says portrait of Tipu Sahib, and there is a provenance to it as well. It says John Cochran, and and this particular painting. Let me just make it. Are you able to see this, Harsha?
Visible. I'm not able to see that, Masu. If you can just put it up again. It's not visible to me on my screen, at least.
Okay, let me. I have the image pulled here. Are you able to see it now, Harsha?
Yeah. I can see it, but of course, it's in a thumbnail format. Yes.
Right. Now, I'll just ensure that when the recording goes live. I mean,
no, that's still fine. Yeah, that's the point.
it's visible clearly to our audience. So
Yes.
this gentleman, Harsha, as I said,
Mhm.
there are two very good references for it. One is on the Columbia.edu website, the website of the Columbia University, and then the the royalacademy.org.uk. They say that this is Tipu Sahib. They've given a provenance as well. So I just like to know, I mean, is he the real Tipu Sultan?
Okay, so this portrait, I came across this painting quite recently. I had seen this portrait, and but I didn't remember seeing that depicted as Tipu Sultan. But later, of course, yes, some people have been putting this post in Facebook, and a couple of them putting in WhatsApp as well. Uh, but much more details about this painting was actually given to me by Mansoor, one of my friends from Bangalore, and also Charles Andrew Craig, who also gave him some details. So basically, this is a picture of this. Basically, is a painting of Humayun, and this painting has been converted into a steel engraving by Cochran, uh, uh, which is mentioned there, John Cochran. So basically, William
That's
Daniel
right.
and Thomas Daniel were the painters who visited India. So I think they have visited a bit of North India, like Delhi and other parts, and some parts of South India as well. So basically, they used to paint the landscapes. But in one of the book, which is Oriental Annual Scenes in India, which is by Reverend Counter BD. So this book was available with Charles Andrew Creed. So in that book, we have a proper reference that this is a painting of this was a engraving based on a painting by William Daniel. Okay,
William
so
Daniel, right.
this is a painting of Humayun. Basically, if you can see the picture, you can actually see a big palatial building just behind the personality. As you can
That's
see,
right.
that kind of building, we don't see that building in either in Mysore or Srirangapatna or in Bangalore as well. So then going by the person himself, I mean, you can actually see the dress and especially the fur around his collar. I mean, we see the fur. So that kind of
Yes.
dress was never a part of the 18th century Mysore dress. We have seen multiple paintings by Robert Home, then by Thomas Hickey. So the people who actually visited India during that part of 18th century, and they have depicted the Mysorean people and the people from Tipu's entourage. So there was not a dress like this. I mean, you can see the shoes and the dress, the fur. So all that shows that basically this is not a image of a Mysorean royalty of 18th century. And of course, we now have a proper provenance from the book The Oriental Annual Scenes in India by Reverend Counter. So this is an engraving
Counter.
based upon painting by William Daniel, and this was done in 1834, 1838. And this is a steel engraving by John Cochran. So basically, engraving is one technique. This is quite unlike
Oh,
painting. See, first of all, an artist creates a painting. So how to distribute this painting in multiple copies for newspapers or somebody else wants to keep that as a copy. So this is almost like an ancient kind of printing. So this is also called as intaglio kind of technique, where basically you have a plate where you use tools to engrave it. Okay, engrave as in you make exact scale drawing and make an engraving and put ink. So wherever there is depression, the ink accumulates there, and you take away the more of the ink by brushing it off. Then you apply pressure, and you place a paper on which you need to get it printed, and apply pressure by turning. So basically, then you get a outline, and in some extent there is something called as mezzotint, which is again an advanced kind of engraving where actually you can make skin kind of pattern, very very lifelike kind of patterns. It's called as mezzotint. So basically these are primitive forms of painting, something sorry printing, something like if
perfect.
you remember a naturalist like John James Audubon also did the same thing for the birds, American birds. So later you can either paint it. For example, you can see this one of the picture. One of the picture is monocolor. On the left side, we
Right.
have a picture which is in color. So what they have done is that they have taken the original painting, converted in that into an engraving, steel engraving. So using that engraving, you get that picture printed. So once it is printed, then you hand paint it on it, color watercolors. You hand paint it. So that gives you a color. You can actually see that red color then the fort and all those things. So bulk of the things are done by engraving itself. The color is added as a secondary element, which gives it more depth. So that is one thing. So that's an engraving. That's not exactly a painting. It's a copy of a painting, which is called as engraving. So that's done by John Cochran, and this is not Tipu Sultan. This is Humayun, Emperor Humayun.
Perfect,
And
Harsha.
again,
And
yeah,
as you
and again,
said, the
just one.
background that also, I've been to Delhi, so that looks a
Mhm.
bit like the Purana Killa. As you
Purana
said,
Killa, yeah. Mansur was telling
yes,
me this
yes.
the other day. That's true. It looks very much like Purana Killa. And one more thing I think I forgot to mention. Yeah, the Daniels, the painters, William Daniel and Thomas Daniel, they visited India in the 18th century. So they haven't seen Humayun by themselves. Probably they might have taken this image by using some miniature. Okay, so I think even Charles Andrew Craig was of the same opinion that this could have been done by some earlier miniature painting, because these people came quite late, Daniels. So in that sense, this might or may not depict the actual Humayun's face as well. So, but definitely this is not Tipu Sultan.
Perfect. Again, Harsha, I mean, that was really very convincing. I mean, you did tell us, why this person isn't Tipu Sultan. And, I believe you also gave a very strong reference, a book where it's been clearly pointed out that this gentleman is Humayun. The name of the book was by Reverend, sorry, if you could just repeat the name of the book and the author, Harsha.
Yeah, the name of the book is The Oriental Annual Scenes in India. The Oriental Annual Scenes in India, and it's by Reverend Counter, Ciunter.
Perfect, perfect. I believe, with this education, I believe we can write to these organizations, the Columbia University, as well as, the Royal Academy of Arts, and set the records straight. Because most
Yeah,
of
I
the
think
times
this.
I have seen.
Yeah, I think this reference was given to Mansoor by Charles Andrew Craig, so we need to thank him for that.
Perfect, perfect, indeed. I believe he's your friend as well. I mean, he's my friend. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I know him as well. So, that is really helpful. And maybe when we write to these universities with the proper reference to these organizations, they might, go ahead and correct it. So,
Yeah, that's
thanks
true.
once again, Harsha. Thank you once again. I mean, that again was very convincing. And especially when websites like Columbia.edu and the Royal Academy of Arts, they have it on their websites, it becomes really difficult for people to, know who is Tipu Sultan and who is not. So with that, Harsha, there's another image. I believe
Yeah,
it's by a French artist. Attributed to Tipu Sultan. I think so. Godefroy or something. And again, you also highlighted the differences between what a painting is and what an engraving is. So that is also very helpful, because when I see, as a layman, when I look at any painting and when it says engraving, and but I don't understand that, but now I know, that a painting is one which is done by the artist, and then the engraving is done so that it's distributed,
that's
basically
true.
making multiple copies, something like we have,
Yes, yes, yes,
what do you call, the carbon paper today. This was a more advanced
exactly.
technique of making copies of it. uh,
And these
I,
plates can be stored for a long duration of time. These plates, whether be it steel plates or copper plates, they can be stored for some time. So there is also something which is called as wood engraving. But
Perfect.
for more detailed work, I think this steel engraving is much more valuable.
Perfect, perfect, wonderful, Harsha. And Harsha, as I said, just getting back, this another image by this French
Yes, yes.
artist. This again is attributed to Tipu Sultan, and it is again said that it was found, in the French library. Let me just share the image.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
just a moment. Sorry about that, Harsha. Just a moment. My system is
No
just.
issues, no issues. Please take your time.
Sorry, my system appears to have, now it's back now. Oh, thank God it's back. I should be able to share it now with you.
Yeah, please.
Are you?
I can see it. Yeah.
Yes. There are two paintings, Harsha. I'll share both of them. This first one, if you look,
yeah,
there's this gentleman, which people attributed to be Tipu, and right at the bottom it says Godefroy, Delin, and then it says J Pass, and
J
apart from
Pass
that,
sculptor, I guess. Yeah, something like that.
sculptor.
And if
That's
you can
right.
see that, if you can see that, see that image up close. So you can see that it's not a painting, but it's an engraving. So it's not basically a drawing. So basically, it's an engraving. So
Perfect.
engraving usually come from an earlier existing painting. So I think there is one more reference there. You can actually put that image as well for the benefit of others, if somebody can see that.
Is this the one?
Yeah. Tipu with his
I believe
Tipu
these
with
are his
Ghulam Ali
sons.
Khan. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that painting, if you can see Masood, so you can actually see Tipu Sultan. He's just sending his sons as hostages to Lord Cornwallis, and that's a very touching moment. And that was captured by Henry Singleton. So the original painting was attributed to the painter Henry Singleton. Henry Singleton was a fantastic painter. Yeah, Henry Singleton was a fantastic painter. Now, apart from this drawing, he has drawn one very important painting which depicts the fall of Tipu Sultan, Tipu Sultan's last moment, and that has been created into many engravings. So some of these engravings are at Mysore. It's in Jagan Mohana Palace, and some of them are at Daria Daulat Bagh. This gentleman, Henry Singleton, was a very prominent painter, but the issue is that Henry Singleton never did visit India. So mostly his depictions are based upon some historians whom he has met at UK, London, probably England. Then apart from that, probably his own imagination. So Henry Singleton has never been to India. So I think, so that represents Tipu Sultan more or less, because you can actually see Abdul Khalik and one more boy, Moizuddin, along with Ghulam Ali Khan, Wakil Langda Ghulam Ali Khan. Then you have some of his entourage. You can actually see Wakil Ghulam Ali. There is one more sister painting to this, where Wakil Ghulam Ali Khan is actually, taking these children to Lord Cornwallis. There is one painting which depicts Ghulam Ali Khan with Lord Cornwallis. But the issue is that this painter Henry Singleton never did visit India. But we have Robert Home. Robert Home, who was exactly at that point in 1792 in India, in Mysore. So he was almost a part of that historical event where the Tipu's sons were given as hostages. So we have one painting by Robert Home. That's a very very reliable painting, because Robert Home was there in person during that time. So in his painting, he has incorporated himself. So what we can tell about this painting and one more up close picture of Tipu Sultan is that if you compare them, they are very close. The facial features of Tipu Sultan in Henry Singleton's version, which is of course an engraving by one more painter, I think by I'll just check. So I think it's by one more engraver. Yeah, so that's
the Robert Home one, I believe you're referring to.
Yeah, this is the Robert Home. Actually, you can see Ghulam Ali Khan actually, where you have, so that's Cornwallis, and
this Cornwallis, right?
Have,
he's handing.
Yeah, that is Cornwallis, I think. Yeah.
Here we have Ghulam Ali Khan.
Ghulam Ali Khan on his silver palki, and adjacent to him is Ali Raza Khan, the Wakil. Then, so this is a very, very important and a very trustworthy picture, because Robert Home was present. You can actually see Robert Home here.
Robert Home is here in the side.
yeah. He is holding his sketchbook. So there was a nice piece written by, I think, Nitin sir, and also by Janki Nair, I think. So there is a nice work which was done by these. historians.
Perfect.
Yeah. So coming to your painting, your query. So I think that is the original is based upon Henry Singleton. The original is done by Henry Singleton, but he never did visit India. So that cannot be a reliable picture. But of course, it depicts Tipu Sultan. It is supposed to depict Tipu Sultan, about to hand over his sons as the hostages. You can actually see Ghulam Ali Khan, then the two children who are about to be given. And this again is a engraving based upon the original by Henry Singleton. And if you can see Tipu Sultan's face here, so that is very similar to the close-up image of Tipu Sultan's image which you had just shown.
This one.
Yeah, I think most likely, of course, much work needs to be done, but I think this picture could have been based on Henry Singleton's picture, most likely.
Yes, Harsha. I mean, I do agree with you. If you look, the headgear and
that's true.
The jewelry around his neck. I mean, it's very, very similar. And
very similar, and it might not be a very accurate representation of Tipu Sultan, but it does, or it is supposed to depict Tipu Sultan. That we can say, but this is not a very faithful image of Tipu Sultan.
Perfect. I do agree with you, Harsha, because as you said, this headgear again and this jewelry all around his neck. I mean, this is something unheard of. And you did mention about Nitin, I believe, who is an authority on Tipu. I mean, he also has the blog, the Toshkhana on WordPress. So, and I believe he was also of the same opinion. He did tell that neither Henry Singleton or this particular French painter, Godefroy Delin, ever visited India, and basically this painting, he was of the same opinion, that is based on a figment of imagination. Both the Henry Singleton, where he has painted the sons, being taken away from Tipu and being led to Lord Cornwallis, as well as then this later painting. So again, I believe with that we can safely conclude that these are not the images of Tipu Sultan. So perfect.
Not faithful images of Tipu Sultan. Yeah, they're supposed to depict Tipu Sultan, but they are not very faithful to his countenance.
Perfect, Harsha. And I believe with that we'll move to another famous image of Tipu Sultan. I mean, the one which is in the Summer Palace, the Daria Daulat Bagh. This was, the palace built by Tipu Sultan. It's in the Ganjam side of Seringapatam, and this particular palace has a very large portrait. I believe that portrait has been put by the ASI, the Archaeological Survey of India, and this particular portrait has been used by various authors and has been used on the cover pages of various books. I do have a very big bulky book here, which talks about the heritage of Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, art and architecture, and we can see here, it's a pretty thick book. This is the painting.
I saw this actually. I saw this book and took some references from University of Mysore. So I don't own a copy of that book. So I went to a library and did the old school of research. And so I found this book, and of course that's a very important book on the different artifacts, and different buildings which are in and around Srirangapatna, and especially it tells us more about Daria Daulat murals and the kind of the paint that they use, and so on and so forth. So much technical details are there. It's a nice book. Yes.
Perfect. And Harsha, I believe that, let me just get to the painting first. Yes, this is the painting. This is the painting which is at the Daria Daulat Bagh, and I believe this is also used as a cover photo for Kate Brittlesbank book, the biography of Tipu Sultan, the Tiger short biography, the life of Tipu Sultan by Kate Brittlesbank. Just before let me just clear something here. I mean, Kate has extensively researched Tipu Sultan, and I'm not saying here that Kate isn't aware that. I'm not saying that Kate is saying that this is Tipu Sultan. It is just that the publisher could have used this particular image on the cover of the book, because earlier the first version of the book which I have got has got a different picture of Tipu Sultan depicted on it. I thought I'll just set the record straight there, because Kate has extensively researched Tipu Sultan, and
That's
there
true.
is basically I'm no one to question her work. So Harsha, over to you. I mean, what do you think of this particular image? I mean, this has been so prominently put
Masood,
up.
can you just magnify that? That image that's still coming in a thumbnail format.
Is it better now, Harsha?
Uh,
It,
it's still in thumbnail format, but nonetheless, it's fine. I can use
yeah.
I will just enlarge it myself. Okay, so yeah, this was a
And just before, I believe this is the
uh,
painting on which you have written an article on. I mean, you've researched this
scroll. Yes,
particular
yes,
painting, and
yes, yes, yes.
your paper was published in Scroll, as I did mention earlier, in the month of November, I believe.
November 20th. Yes.
November 20th. That was a
Yeah.
well researched paper, Harsha. I believe you've taken this painting, and then you basically. I mean, I'll just let you take over and talk about your paper and this particular painting, Harsha. I mean, is this the real Tipu Sultan? And if not, I mean, what is your basis?
Yeah. Yeah. So Masood, as you can see, this is a very large painting, and this is at Daria Daulat Bagh currently. Uh, so whenever we used to visit Daria Daulat Bagh, and invariably we used to see this picture, we see this painting. So the question, the main question which came to our mind is that this is quite unlike any of the other Tipu Sultan portraits that we see often. There is GF Cherry's version, there is a watercolor gouache version. I think we'll be showing them up further in our talk. But this is quite unlike the face of Tipu Sultan in other portraits. So that was the natural question which came to us. I mean, we were discussing with Nitin. We also discussed with Charles Andrew Craig, and one day, I mean, while chatting with Charles Andrew Craig, I just asked the question. I mean, you were basically chatting about the Thomas Hickey and other painters, basically, because Thomas Hickey was my, and is still my first love. So when we started to discuss about this particular painting, then fortunately Charles already had an answer. Charles is a noted art historian based in UK, and he has done some initial research on this painting. So two things were known to Charles. One thing is that this painting is basically attributed to Johann Zoffany in the museum, and that says this painting was done sometime in 1780, and this painting depicts Tipu Sultan, who is supposed to be around 29 or 30 years of age in 1780, supposedly. So whenever we actually see this image, we see, okay, this is a young Tipu Sultan, so probably
Yes.
over the period of time, Tipu Sultan might
Yes.
have gained weight or something like that, which is quite evident in other portraits of Tipu Sultan. But nonetheless, the facial features remain, in very contrast to the facial features of Tipu Sultan. So that was something which prompted me to ask this question. So of course, I asked this natural question to Charles Andrew Craig, and Charles Andrew Craig, by his earlier work, he already had known that this painting was not of Johann Zoffany and is of by Tilly Kettle. That is one thing that we got to know. One more thing was that if it was by Tilly Kettle, then most likely this painting would depict somebody from the royal family of ours. So that these two things were already known to Charles Andrew Craig. So using that as a platform, and also we started doing further digging into the provenance of this painting, and while searching in Dennis Forrest's book, in 1970s book of Dennis Forrest, we came across one passage. So in the last part of this book, there is one chapter which is based on illustrations of Tipu Sultan. There is one chapter. There is one chapter on it devoted to it. So in that, we found one very interesting reference saying that this full-length portrait was gifted to the government of India in 1934 by Sir P.C. Tagore, and this was already attributed to Johann Zoffany. So this is in 1934. So now what we know is that in 1934 itself, this was attributed to be of Johann Zoffany, and the sitter would be Tipu Sultan. So at one point of time, this was displayed in the Viceroy's in the Viceroy office in, I think, Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. So later on, I think it has come down to Daria Daulat. So what we need to know is that before it came to Daria Daulat, then itself it was attributed to Johann Zoffany. So that was the thing. So now we need to conclude. We needed to conclusively prove that, yeah, this is Tilly Kettle, but not Johann Zoffany. And this is somebody else and not Tipu Sultan. So now when we started to see the paintings by Johann Zoffany, because Johann Zoffany was the painter to which this painting was attributed. So Johann Zoffany, we started searching Mildred Archer's book, uh, then Rohatky and Parlet books, then other books on art history of India, and of course Charles helped us to help me to get access to these things because I didn't own a copy of Mildred Archer's book. So while studying, it's quite evident that the styles of these two painters are totally different. Johann Zoffany was a German painter, was one of the best and one of the most technically advanced and a superior painter. And then this speciality was conversation pieces where you have multiple people interacting, and you have some theatricality which is shown in the portrait. So there is a person who is doing some expression. There is a person who is showing some emotion. So all these things are quite evident in Johann Zoffany's paintings. Whereas in Tilly Kettle's paintings, usually you have an individual who actually shows no emotion. So basically, they look straight ahead, staring at the visualizer, and especially when you can actually see this painting itself, you can actually see the direction of the light, the stance of the foot, his posture, the way of holding his the sword, and all these things. So that actually shows that this painting is definitely not of Johann Zoffany and of Tilly Kettle. You can see the background is very simple, and you have this palm trees, which Tilly Kettle used to incorporate as a backdrop of his paintings quite often. Even you can see that in Nawab of Carnatics, I think Nawab's painting. Then you have one British officer's painting, and so many other paintings which have the similar attributes. Even of Shuja-ud-Duala and his son Asaf-ud-Dawla, then Shuja-ud-Duala alone, then Shuja-ud-Duala along with his children, with General Barker. So all these things, I mean, the dress, the stance of the foot, the shadow, the direction of the light, all these things actually, and the expressionless faces, and faces actually looking directly ahead. So all these were quite evident that this is a Tilly Kettle's rendition rather than Johann Zoffany's rendition. Tilly Kettle visited India sometime in 1769 to 1776. And initial 2 years, 1769 to 1771, he resided in Madras. Then later on, he shifted to, and he became the court painter of Awadh under the patronage of Shuja-ud-Duala. So these information we collected later on. Then we started seeing other portraits of Tilly Kettle, and very, very, very interestingly, and me and Nidin were actually on the call while this incident happened. So while searching this painting, so there was this black and white version of this painting in, I think, Partet and Rohatky, and also there was one black and white version in Mildred Archer's book. So there, when you see this Shah Alam's painting, where you have the Emperor Shah Alam sitting, and he is actually checking the army exercise by EIC, East India Company Army's exercise troops, and that was held in the presence of Shah Alam by General Barker. So the provenance was that this painting was done sometime in England itself in 1781 under Barker's commission. Barker commissioned Tilly Kettle to do this portrait. So this was done sometime in 1781. But the actual event where in this painting you can see Shuja-ud-Duala, you can see Shah Alam, you can see Robert Barker, and this event was held when Robert Barker was not a general but of a lower rank, I think probably a colonel back then. So this actual event of Shah Alam inspecting the troops could have happened sometime in 1765 to 1771, most likely. So, but this painting was painted in England in 1781 by Tilly Kettle. So upon closer inspection, you can actually see there is one character which is just behind Shah Alam from the visualizer's point of view, and that individual, bears uncanny resemblance to the sitter Tipu Sultan of our Daria Daulat painting. So upon closer inspection, we can actually see that these two images are exactly identical. Even the posture looks the same. The face is almost a mirror image.
Can you see that?
Yeah, you can try to enlarge that. you can see the dress, the floral motifs. Then I think he doesn't
headgear.
show a sword there. The headgear and everything, the shadow and everything, mirror images. So basically, my idea is that Tilly Kettle might have painted this individual, or probably sketched or made a drawing or painting of this individual sometime between 1771 to 1776, I guess, and probably use the same sketch to incorporate the same individual in one more painting, which he did in 1781. So basically, see, he has to take the same characteristic. Shuja-ud-Duala is there in 17 in that painting, but in 1781, the painter has to incorporate all these characters into that painting, right? So that means to say that he must have uh, made some sketches, earlier sketches of these individuals. So to the best of my
Wow.
knowledge, and of course, I mean, I discussed this with Nidin and of course Charles Craig. Then we got to know that I think this is from a single drawing. The artist has used the almost similar drawing and incorporated that into that 1781 painting of Shah Alam. So
Oh,
of course, Tipu Sultan can never be on the side of Shuja-ud-Duala and Shah Alam. And this was the event which was supposed to have held in Allahabad. So we don't have any reference that Tipu Sultan ever visited North
going to
India.
perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
And then one more reference we got was in Ashirbadi Lal Srivastava, because see, I'm quite true to Mysore history, and of course, history of Awadh is very new, and I'm totally ignorant to that. I mean, so I started reading Ashirbadi Lal Srivastava. So in one of his volume, I think volume 2, I guess it deals with Shuja-ud-Duala. So where we have some evidence that Shuja-ud-Duala and his brother-in-law, who was Mirza Muhammad Ali Salarjung, who was Bahu Begum's brother. Bahu Begum was wife of Shuja-ud-Duala. So I think he was very close to Shuja-ud-Duala, and then sometimes he used to act as his negotiator. Sometimes he used to act as his advisor. So in all probabilities, it could be him. So that this person could be in all possibility be Mirza Muhammad Ali Salarjung. So this idea was there with Charles Andrew Craig earlier. What we did knew was to find this painting. So this discovery was later, which we found it out. So basically, me and Nidin were on a phone call. So when we actually found this out in Mildred Archer. No, I think Bartlett and Rohatgi's book. Yeah, that was black and white painting. See, we have this very nice painting in uh, 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 William Dalrymple's latest book, The Anarchy. You have
The
a color
anarchy.
painting of this. I have seen this painting multiple times, but yet I had missed that individual because that individual is in backdrop. And there we have one black and white painting where it was a high contrast image, and that individual, he was quite visible. So now there is no doubt that this person is definitely not Tipu Sultan.
Perfect, perfect,
So this
Harsha. I
could
mean,
be
no, as you pointed out, we have got both the the painter as well as the picture, the image wrong. Both the
yeah.
attribution.
And now
Uh,
so now Charles Andrew Craig was right because this is a bona fide Tilly Kettle painting, the one where we have Shah Alam. So this is like proving conclusively that definitely this is Tilly Kettle, not your hands off me, and definitely this is not Tipu Sultan. This will be somebody else who is from the royal family of Awadh.
Royal Family Fought. Perfect, perfect, brilliant, Harsha. I mean, that was really insightful and a fabulous piece of research, I should say. And I think, Harsha, I mean, the buck should not stop here. And as we discussed earlier, and agreed that someone has to set the record straight. And I understand you're already in the process of contacting the ASI as well as other writers to point out this particular error. And I understand when Anne Budel, who is the curator for the National Galleries of Scotland, she was here as well. I mean, she was also not convinced that this particular portrait was of Tipu Sultan. So,
Yes,
so,
yes,
so
yes. Mansur was telling me about this sometime.
wonderful, wonderful, Harsha, wonderful. Harsha, now, there's another painting which you have used in this particular article on Scroll. You have used it as a comparison. I believe that's the
True.
particular painting of uh, Cherry, GF Cherry. And
Cherry. Yeah,
let me
that's
just
the G of cherry. Yeah, yeah.
open that particular image. Just a
Yes,
moment,
yes.
Harsha. Let me just open that particular image, and yes, here it is.
Yeah,
I believe one of the oldest images doing rounds, being attributed to
yeah.
Tipu. I mean, do you think this is the real Tipu Sultan, Harsha? And uh,
Most
uh,
likely, this can be considered as one of the most authentic pictures of Tipu Sultan. At least till now, this can be considered as an authentic picture of Tipu Sultan because this was rendered in 1792 by G.F. Cherry, who was a Persian ambassador to. I think he used to translate also. So I think he was with Cornwallis, Lord Cornwallis. Then in one of the references, I think by Anne Buddle, the Zamana Gallery book. So we found out that I think basically it was Nitin who pointed that reference to me that this painting was painted by G.F. Cherry, and that was handed over to none other than Tipu Sultan's mother. Then
oh,
later
right.
on, that was inherited by Prince Ghulam Muhammad, the Prince Ghulam, the youngest son, one of the youngest son, I mean youngest son of Tipu Sultan. Then later it was handed over to East India Company, most likely. So that's the provenance. So that we found in the Zamana Gallery book by Anne Buttle in 1990, I guess. That book was published in 1990. So now we know that this is because this was painted during Tipu Sultan's time, and in all probabilities, this G.F. Cherry could have definitely seen Tipu Sultan. And there is and this painting now hangs in British Library, and there is
Perfect.
one version of G.F. Cherry in Daria Daulat Bagh as well. So for those who can't travel to England, we can actually see G.F. Cherry's painting in Daria Daulat Bagh itself. And I think these two copies could have been done by G.F. Cherry himself. So of course, these two, upon closer inspection, these two paintings, the one at the British Library and one at Daria Daulat Bagh, they look exactly similar, but interestingly, they are not identical because we can actually see Tipu Sultan seated on his masnad, and we have the cushion
Right.
onto which he is resting. So the pattern on the cushion is slightly different in both of these paintings. So yet these two paintings are very similar but not exactly identical.
Yeah,
So
but I believe the
at least
facial
yeah,
features and others, I mean,
yeah.
those are
So facial
exactly the same.
features exactly the same. And one more thing was that while reading Beatson, we have multiple eyewitness accounts of people actually
Yes,
finding Tipu Sultan's body
body.
under an archway on May 4, 1799. So I think Allen was there. Then at the same time, we have Benjamin Sydenham. So their description of Tipu Sultan matched with this portrait. Like
Perfect.
Tipu Sultan, Tani. I mean, he had a mustache, but he didn't have a beard. He had an aquiline nose, and he had arched eyebrows, and he had a thick neck, and he was a bit corpulent. So all these descriptions are there in both Benjamin Sydenham's account and also in Allen's account. So I think at that day, Allen was there. David Baird was the one who made that discovery of Tipu Sultan's body. Then you have Arthur Wellesley. Then uh, you have Barry Close. So many others were actually there when they recovered the body of Tipu Sultan. So their description, I mean, basically Allen's and Benjamin Sydenham's description actually match with this painting. So to my best of my knowledge, I think this is the most accurate version of Tipu Sultan, which can be used as a positive control. So basically, when you do some experiments, you need to have positive controls to which you can use it as a reference. So using this picture as a positive control, when you see the other image, the Darya Daulat image, you can definitely see that there is no comparison. I mean, there is no facial features which match in both of these paintings. So, so that was actually one of the questions that started this whole thing in the first place.
No,
So this,
excellent, Harsha.
to the best of my knowledge, this is the most accurate painting of Tipu Sultan uh, to date. So
No, I mean, that is really very convincing, Harsha. No, finally, I mean, we have been able to establish, I mean, what Tipu Sultan looked like. As you just said that after this painting was made, it was handed over to his mother. So definitely, they would have seen Tipu Sultan, and Tipu Sultan
Yes,
himself
yes,
might have seen this particular painting as well, and then it was
probably.
later handed over to his son as well. So in all likeliness, and as you also gave a description of Tipu Sultan, telling that he had a mustache, he didn't have a beard, and the headgear, everything, it does match. The description does match the resemblance portrayed in
Yes,
this particular painting. And Harsha, I believe there's another image, maybe just one last image,
yes,
which is very
yes, yes, yes,
similar to this particular image. They say it's done by an Indian artist, and
yes.
let me share that with you as well. Uh,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this
This is
particular
also,
image
yeah.
done
This
somewhere in
also is a
1790s.
yeah. So it says around 1790 to 1800. So I think to the best of my knowledge, this is this image I saw it in Susan Strone's book. It's called as Tipu's Tigers. So I think so. This I think is at Victoria and Albert Museum. Uh, so this basically is not an oil painting. This is a watercolor gouache. Gouache is basically a opaque kind of painting. Uh, so it's basically a water painting. So
Okay.
I think it might have used the GF Cherry's version as a reference as well, because the stance, the masnad, the way he is looking. I mean, the profile picture. It's a profile pic. We don't have Tipu Sultan, not even a single portrait of Tipu Sultan. Where he is actually looking directly at us. So so at least by GF Cherry. So I think this portrait, I mean, largely is based. I mean, is based upon by GF Cherry's version. As is, there is one more version by which is engraved by Omi Edward. So I think most of these paintings, I think, use the GF Cherry's version, because you have the profile picture, then the Tipu Sultan is seated, and Tipu Sultan is seated on his masnad in the same posture. And apart from the difference in the dress, I mean, the color of the dress,
Color.
there we have some gray, brown color, light color clothes, and here we have green, sap green color dress. So apart from that, this looks more or less very faithful to GF Cherry's version. So I think probably the artist. I think this was painted in India itself. I think Srirangapatnam or somewhere in Mysore, and it is attributed to an Indian artist. So it's a watercolor gouache, and I think, to my knowledge, it could have been based on GF Cherry's painting.
Perfect. Brilliant, Harsh. I mean, that was a really, wonderful, brilliant, and a very enlightening session. I'm sure, I mean, this will help a lot of people, not just ordinary folks, but, historians, writers, scholars with their work. I mean, now that they actually know, I mean, which painting is an actual depiction of Tipu Sultan. That was really wonderful, Harsha. And it also just shows that, how complex the character of Tipu really was. I mean, we don't even have enough of his images, and I think, as you pointed out, that was mostly, you said that, we don't have a frontal image of him. Maybe that's because he was, always engaged with some or the other activity, either with war or, so many other activities. And just an interesting fact, Harsh, I mean, you might be aware of it as well. Maybe we can cover this in some other session. The word Tipu itself, I mean, I did check the
True, true.
Arabic as well as Persian, lexicon, and we don't have this particular word. And some say that he was actually named after, Tipendra Swami, also referred as Tipe
Tippeswamy,
Swami.
Tippeswamy.
Tipe Swami, that's right. However, the other popular version is that he was named after Tipu Mastan, I mean, whose
Alia, yeah.
mausoleum is found in Arcot.
Arcot,
but
yes, yes.
but what is the actual origin of his name? I mean, that is something that needs to be debated.
That's true. That's true.
And
That's a mystery also.
quite an enigmatic character, I must say. And
That's
and
true.
uh,
That's true.
and Harsha, thank you so much for making time to attend and educate us about the real Tipu Sultan. And thanks once again for all your efforts and your research. And I would just like to point out, I'd just like to say that you're already, I know, working on another research paper on Tipu Sultan, his actual place of death. I believe there's some confusion to it, and
Yes,
you
yes,
have,
yes.
I believe, with the help of travel accounts, images, and contemporary records, found the
Yes,
actual
yes.
place of his death. And I believe you've also sent that particular paper to a reputed international UK journal, and that's currently being peer reviewed. And I'm sure once that's published, we can have you once again to talk about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you, Harsha.
always a pleasure to speak to you, Masood. And then, yeah, it has been a great session. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to, uh, uh, talk to you and, talk to you at your blog as well, which is Bygone Chronicles. And I wish you all the best with that. And I wish Bygone Chronicles all the best as well. And thank you for all your endeavors and help.
Thank you, Harsha. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, yeah.
Take
Yeah,
care.
yeah. Thank you, Masood. Thank you, Masood. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.